iHeartRadio from Boston and beyond. Meet 981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Nancy, Smokehouse. It's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach Love. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. The urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach If you got something on your mind, you can call in, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in, I'ma always be the business. To empower you, so that you can do every and anything that you want to. You can hear it, Coach Al, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. On the urban heat is calling. Conversations with Coach La 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 La. Coach La 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 La.
Evening. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach La La La. How y'all doing? It's a beautiful evening here in Boston, although it is super cold. 28 degrees to be exact. You are listening to Urban Heat 98.1 FM, and I am Coach La, your favorite around the way therapist, coming off of Thanksgiving holiday. Shout out to everybody who participated in Thanksgiving. I know for some folks it's a tough time of the year. I did get a chance to spend some time with family, which was really nice. Shout out to everybody that went out to the Twins and Friends and Franchise Entertainment all black affair that went down. I saw that was a wonderful event that everybody attended. So tonight we are having a special episode of Conversations with Coach La, because I get a chance to talk to someone that I had the pleasure of meeting at one of his events. And I'm not going to give it all away in this introduction. I'm going to let us talk about that once I bring him on screen. But he is a highly regarded and acclaimed spoken word artist. And one of the things that I have come to admire is his ability to tackle complex issues, social issues, with his honesty and his depth. He is also a Grammy-nominated poet, and I think that is pretty awesome. I'm sure you'll find his wordplay, and if you haven't experienced it, I'm gonna play a clip in a minute for you to check out some of the things that he talks about. But he has a gift for storytelling and an unwavering commitment to telling the truth. He fearlessly explores the depths of the human experience by shedding light on societal injustices and personal struggles. And he draws inspiration from our rich culture. One of the things that I also have come to understand is that he is a man of many talents. He not only does spoken word, he also is a Pilates instructor, which I'm curious to see how he made that shift. But he's all about wellness. So he goes well beyond his performances. He's collaborated with various artists, musicians, activists, and he's used his platform to amplify voices and to advocate for change. His art has become a catalyst for some very important conversations, inspiring empathy, understanding, and social transformation. He continues to uplift, educate, and empower. And his spoken word reminds us all that we have a voice and that we should share in the strength of our own humanity. So I want to welcome to Conversations with Coach La, Mr. Prentice Powell. What's going on, P?
Hey, how are you tonight?
What's going on, P?
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I can hear you. Okay. We got sound. We got lift off. Thank you for having this conversation with me tonight.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, we have a very interesting story of how we come to meet each other. It was probably, I think, a pivotal moment in my professional career and also in your personal career because I came to see one of your live tapings of all Black Men Need Therapy, right? He's
Yeah.
1/3 of All Black Men Need Therapy podcast with Bell and Chief, the poet who's also come on this show. And we were talking about therapy. And I think what I want to touch on first is I usually ask people, to tell me a little bit about what therapy means to them and also who are they beyond their bio, right?
Mhm.
That particular day I found you told the audience that you actually don't go to therapy, which I think is one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on the show, unless that's changed.
No, it's still the same.
Okay. So you don't actually go to therapy, but you have a podcast that's all about Black men needing to go to therapy. So that's sort of like a oxymoron.
Oxymoron in a way. Yeah,
Yeah, a
it
little
is.
bit. So I'm
It is.
curious, beyond what I told the audience, what do you want the listeners to know about you that isn't listed in your bio? Which I didn't, a couple things I didn't tell them, but
Yeah. What would I like to the audience to know about me that isn't listed in my bio is as weird as it may sound, the first thing that comes to mind is none of that matters. I mean, to be honest with you,
yeah.
in the sense of it's great to have accomplishments and accolades, but we all know people who have accomplishments and accolades, and they're not good people. So when I say none of that matters, I'm not saying literally, that the things that you listed, and thank you for mentioning them, aren't important in my life, but I'm a lot more focused on who I am at my core and in my spirit. Um, and I try to lead with who I am outside of accolades and accomplishments because it gets real easy to live within those titles. You know what I mean? And you aren't necessarily honest with yourself when you're living through accomplishments and titles. Sometimes you can lose track and lose focus of your own growth and self development. So I would want them to know that despite the accolades and titles, I am absolutely a beautifully flawed work in progress. That's
Ooh.
what I would say.
Yes, I think one of the things I've come to understand is that none of us have it figured out.
Mhm.
Everybody is going through their own quiet battles that you know nothing about. I was talking with my 19-year-old son about the ebbs and flows of life. And
Mhm.
you have these high moments, but no one really knows about your lows unless you share it, right? Or
Right.
somebody really, really close to you. Because often we all have to put on the good face. We got to get out there, work, we got to grind, go to school, go to our jobs, take care of our kids, and no one necessarily knows the quiet struggles, the moments where you don't really want to do it, the moments where things are hard, where you question whether or not you're going to know what to do next, and
Right.
you're doing it regardless, not knowing, is it going to work,
Hmm.
is it going to be successful. So I speak to all of that to talk about one of the reasons why you created the podcast with your other two brothers was coming off of George Floyd. I think that, if you correct me if I'm wrong, and that was your space, and I've listened to the show several times where you're like, that is your therapy,
Hmm.
right? So doing that show every week with Bell and Chief is what you've used as a source of therapy. And they challenge you like, yo, man, you still need to go to therapy. This is not the only place you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, the question of what does therapy mean to you, um, how would you frame that given that oxymoron that you don't go to therapy?
Right. Well, yeah. Bell and Chief actually started the podcast a year before I hopped on for direct reasons of the George Floyd incident. So I hopped on about a year into its conception. Yeah, the ongoing oxymoron is that I'm not in therapy yet. Here I am every week, having therapeutic sessions with my two of my good friends, and on a podcast called All Black Men Need Therapy. And what I've discovered in my journey. Now, let me make it clear: I've been to therapy before. I'm not currently in therapy, so I've been to several times. To me, therapy is healing from the inside, and I am learning on my journey, as unorthodox as it is, that there are different forms of it. Right. I'm not against going. I don't have a valid excuse on why I'm not in therapy. And that's the honest truth. I don't know if this oxymoron that I'm not necessarily proud of is helping anybody else. Maybe it normalizes something,
Mm.
but it's not like I have a spill. It's not like I have a reason why I don't go to professional therapy with a therapist. But to me, the idea of therapy is finding activities, people, energy um, that benefits you from the inside out. It's an internal process. So
Yeah,
therapy is definitely something that serves you internally, and can hopefully impact everybody around you.
I think you mentioned a good point though. You've been to therapy, right?
I have, absolutely, yeah.
So when you've gone in the past, do you think that that's what's helped shape how you're engaging with the world now in terms of the activities and even being a part of the podcast?
No, I wouldn't say it would. It is. To me, when I reflect, I've been to therapy in a previous relationship. I've been to individual therapy 2 to 3 times, and if I reflect back on the process, I don't think I had the right people, because when I reflect on therapy, I don't see, I don't feel like I left with anything of value. If I'm being honest.
Yes, I would love.
Um, yeah, I don't feel like, when I reflect on those sessions, I don't feel like I left with anything of value. And if anything, considering the relationship therapy that I was in, previous relationship, um, when I reflect on that, I'm kind of disappointed in myself, because I knew that I was being insincere. Not from going into therapy, but being in that relationship in the first place. And I feel like I allowed myself to put on um, a facade while I had therapy. And that's something that I do want to clear up um, eventually at some point. But no, I wouldn't say that actual professional therapy is what inspired me to be on All Black Need Therapy. Um, it actually was the fact that Bell was thinking about not being on the podcast anymore, and Chief needed somebody else also. And Bell obviously ended up staying. But I like the feeling of having a safe space to talk, and that's what All Black Men Need Therapy does for me. It gives me a safe space with two of my friends to talk about whatever I want, void of judgment, but not void of accountability. And I think that's important.
I like
We're not judging each other on the things we talk about, our quarrels with each other, the outside world, but we are holding each other accountable. And I'm learning that that's something that I've been missing from my peers, is a group of brothers who are willing to hold me accountable despite what I think or feel in the moment, because I'm rational enough to be able to reflect on it and kind of put it to use.
I've listened several times, and one of the things I really appreciate is you guys, I think sometimes forget we're listening.
Yeah.
I think y'all forget sometimes. I'm like, oh, they going in, right? And it's very authentic, and it's almost like if you ever wanted to be a fly on the wall,
Hmm.
and what guys talk about when they really are being sincere with no frills, no mask, no nothing, you need to tune into this podcast, because I think you guys really pull back the layers. And again, it feels like sometimes I'm eavesdropping on a conversation that
People
I'm
say
not
that.
supposed to be listening to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a lot. It's very insightful, But I want to circle back when you say you didn't get anything meaningful out of it, because you're mentioning that you noticed that you weren't being authentic in these sessions, and it seems like even if nothing else, you've had a realization of what you don't want in a therapist. Wouldn't
Hmm.
that be something meaningful to take away from it?
Absolutely. When you put it that way, absolutely. I think when I say that, maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Maybe, you know what I mean? I absolutely know what I'm not looking for. I absolutely know that. And not to say that the therapists I had were terrible, they just weren't a good fit for me. And I can remember talking to these individuals and feeling like, um, there's an inauthenticity to it in the exchange to me. And yeah, so there definitely was a benefit in learning what it was that I feel like was not of a benefit. And I
Mhm.
know, I know I got to be a black woman. I know that.
Yeah.
That's yeah, absolutely.
So
So
I'm
yeah.
just So I was thinking, you said, the exchanges weren't authentic, but it also sounds like you knew you weren't bringing your authentic self. So it could have been that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could. And you're doing what you did when we first met. You already giving me things to talk about. This is exactly what you did when we met. This is exactly what you did. I love it. Yeah. If you're not operating in authenticity, then you're obviously not giving a chance for the relationship to be truly organic.
No,
In
like
hindsight, yeah.
it's
So
already bullshit before you even
yeah, so I got to take
started.
accountability for that thing. Yeah, I can't. I guess I can't go with that narrative because I know I wasn't being.
No.
I wasn't. But if I compare the professional therapy that I received to all black men need therapy, it's night and day. Like you say, like you feel like you're eavesdropping. My wife says that sometimes. Like, I can't believe you just brought up so and so. I can't believe you.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
good.
don't. I don't do it because we're a podcast. I do it because I don't have anything else like that in my life.
Yeah.
That's why I do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's why a podcast resonates with so many people. I can't even just say black men, with so many people, because a lot of us don't have a space where the idea of being vulnerable isn't even a concept because you're automatically on that type of time.
Hmm.
And we are on that podcast. We're just that's all we know on that podcast. We press record and our audience happens to be there, but our vulnerability is definitely not based upon views, likes, or anything like that. It's based upon the environment and the energy we create for each other, like the sense of community and brotherhood that we have. It goes a long way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think at first I thought it was just that live show, because I had the opportunity to hear both her pre-recorded and then actually see you guys engage by being in the studio audience.
Uh,
And I've listened to several more episodes, and it's consistent. So you guys are definitely not. It's not like a one hit wonder, and I just happened to get a good episode, and you guys are being that way. Like every episode, you guys really dig deep, and talk about some real complex issues. I'm trying to remember the title of it, but I think it was Bell and Chief that were going at it. I think, and Bell
yep,
was telling Chief that he wasn't going to, pretty much, he wasn't going to help him anymore.
yep,
Wasn't going to offer him any more advice. And they went through a whole thing about sometimes we want to make things hard, and we have to take the road that's of the most resistance instead of
yeah,
the easier road. And I thought that episode was pretty profound. Um, so thinking about when we met, we met, and I still talk about you often, because I was on my own sort of just self-care. Just I want to do something different. I'm not trying to be on the networking. I'm not going to perform. I'm just going to just experience and just be still. I wasn't actually, remember I said I wasn't even supposed to talk. Supposed to
yeah,
just, and we got to talking about parents and relationships and upbringing. Um, and you were sharing that you and your dad you weren't talking to him, or you guys didn't have the best rapport. And we were talking
mhm,
about forgiveness. We were talking about a lot of stuff, and it's interesting because it's right around the holidays,
yeah,
Thanksgiving. A lot of people are grappling with seeing family that they don't talk to, reaching out to family that they don't talk to. Um, and you actually end up calling your dad that day.
I did. Like 3 minutes after we got done recording,
Yeah.
and you you had said the most profound thing while we were talking. You had forced me to question if I really truly forgave him. Um, and I knew in my heart when you asked that question that the answer was no. And I was so choked up during that episode based off of Chief's response to his, absent father and just the natural feelings that it brought in me. You asking me if I really had forgave him just made me totally break down inside and be like, I haven't. I'm still angry. I'm still pissed.
Mhm.
And I think you and Chief's mom, in a very healthy way, brought that out. And I literally decided as soon as we pressed stop on the camera, I was like, I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of crying. I am tired of crying when I think about my dad. And we had a terrible argument 4 years ago. And I literally just walked out of the room we recorded in. And we were on that golf course. And I walked down the golf course and I was crying. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just call him. I'm gonna just call him. And I picked up my phone. I debated for about 3 minutes. I called him, and he hung up. He picked up after like 10 rings, and I got on the phone, and I was just like, "Yo, I need to see you so I can talk to you." And he said, "Let me stop you right there, man. I've been praying to God that I hear your voice one more time. I am so proud of you. I am so sorry for everything I did." And I wasn't expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started breaking down crying, and he started crying. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't sit still. So I started walking back towards the building while on speakerphone with him. And there you were walking out of the building. And I broke down in your arms. I mean, literally. You
Yeah.
heard him on speakerphone apologizing, and I couldn't stand up straight because the little boy in me was getting the apology that he always wanted but never had the courage to admit prior to that episode we recorded with you in the audience. And it was such a full circle moment because you are who inspired me to pick up the phone. And then here you are, the only black woman available. The not the only, but the right one.
Right.
And I've never broken down in a stranger's arms. You know what I mean? It was the most covering, loving embrace that I can imagine that I can remember feeling. And it was really special to have you being the person who inspired me to call my dad, hear him do that, and for me to break down and cry while hugging you and you holding me. And I will forever remember that moment. That's etched in my brain. And
Real talk.
like I remember you telling me, like, you weren't gonna come. And
Nope.
what you were going through as a therapist, questioning your own ability. And here I am having easily the most life altering moment of my life. That was.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of significant moments, good and bad. But what that moment did for me to this very day, and that was in August, that was 3 months ago. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, a little over 3 months ago. What that moment did for me, career changing, spiritually changing. I mean, it was life changing. So I thank you for that always. That's always going to be the forever thank you between you and I because
Yeah.
it wouldn't have happened had you not inspired me to do it. And it just
Yeah.
goes to show that
Ooh.
we may think we're not meant to be somewhere. We may not want to be somewhere, but we are absolutely everywhere for a purpose. Nothing in this world is coincidental. And if I was to think that, that was just a random moment that happened, I wouldn't be doing it justice, giving it the
Yeah.
significance that it deserves.
Yeah. It was similar to me. I think I still remember that moment because this work that we do, we don't always get a thank you, right? You don't
Right.
always get an opportunity to see real time the impact that you have.
Right.
They come and they go, right?
Right.
So there's often more relapse than there is wins for people. Like life is hard, so sometimes people struggle for a really long time
They
before they have
do.
these breakthroughs. And I think what was so profound for me was the fact that you called and that you didn't let ego, you didn't let whatever stop you. You in that moment trusted yourself and your feelings to just do it. And your father met you with the same energy.
Crazy.
He too did the same exact thing. And if that is anything that's in your gene pool of you being kindred spirits, like I was so overwhelmed hearing his voice because you had him on speakerphone.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to hear this man apologize
Yeah.
and speak, ask for forgiveness, forgive him. Like it was overwhelming.
Yeah. I'm sure it had to be for you. I'm
Um,
sure it had to be.
but
Because
it
none
was
of
so
us saw it coming.
no, and it was such a great thing to see for anyone that's listening, because I have a lot of people who listen through iHeartRadio and will listen to this replay of being able to trust yourself and not to hold back in those moments
Oh,
where you want to make those calls. And you might be surprised, because I think one of the reasons why you didn't want to call your dad was because of that previous exchange.
Yep.
Where he said some things that just really was just hurtful,
Yep.
inappropriate.
Yep.
And you shared that during the live podcast. And I said, he more than likely was just sharing what he thought he needed to share, because that's probably what someone said to him. So he just repeated the same thing to you, which was almost like the standard man up, stop being a bitch. Kind of,
that's what it was. That's what it was.
Punch you in the chest kind of, energy. And you were like, yeah, I ain't never calling him again. I'm all set.
And I was so serious.
Yeah, you were
so serious.
So serious. But he shocked me. You always hope for that. But people don't always do what you would hope they would do. So you and your dad really restored for me that people have the ability to grow and to change and to evolve, if given time and space, and if they want to.
Right. He definitely reaffirmed that it's never too late. The fact that his prayers were being answered and my fears were being dispelled, right? And maybe for you, your path was being reaffirmed through the life of somebody else. How everything can connect and how one experience can mean so many different things to several different people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how it just was such a reminder of how we rob ourselves by not being sincere with ourselves to other people.
Yep. Yeah.
That was the best thing that could have happened. I call him like once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to him. I've spoken to him at least 2-3 times a month since then. I had actually invited him to the house for Thanksgiving the other day, but he couldn't make it. But the fact that those are real conversations that are happening between he and I are very reaffirming and healing for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate them. I respect them for what they are. I don't looking into our relationship as expecting anything, but being very gracious about what these interactions have done for me spiritually and emotionally. I've been a really scarred little boy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that day that I was able to admit that I'm hurt because, I want my dad. And I felt like that's the most I ever got him, and that was enough. If I never got anything else, I'd be okay. And I'm still getting more every time I call him.
That's dope. I have so many clients that have mommy wombs, daddy wombs, sometimes both.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they want to hear is, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Please forgive me. Like those things, like some people never ever get them. And the person will go to their grave just standing on just the lack, ignorance, I don't know, ego. I shouldn't say I don't know. There's various reasons for it, but that old adage, I'm gonna go to my grave with it. This is just the way that I am, and they just won't come off of that energy. So it was really nice to see that and to witness that, I think, between a father and a son. I know there's a lot of mothers and daughters that are also hurting and have very similar experiences. So we also talked about that day. A lot of your poetry was about being this wounded, hurt young man. And you were saying the poem that you actually performed that night, you said that was the last time you were going to perform that poem because it was about your dad. So thinking and shifting gears just a tad to like your inspiration for your poetry. I know part of it has been your father, but also social issues. And then I want to also play a clip that I have. But what do you think in terms of inspiration? Where do you stand now and how you're inspired to write?
I've been writing from a space of healing. I've been writing from a space of reflection, self-reflection that doesn't involve me opening wounds in order to create. I've been writing a lot less, and for the first time, been okay with it because I'm living more than I'm creating right now. And I realized that I was trying to live through my creations, and now I just enjoy every day. I wake up, I'm full of gratitude for the house that we live in. I'm full of gratitude for the people that I'm around. I'm grateful for my kids, my wife, and I'm not trying to turn everything into a poem. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to find the answers through my art. Now I'm just writing. And the things that are creating are coming from a space of healing. I'm mentioning healing. I'm mentioning wanting to be a better self. I'm mentioning self-reflection. I'm mentioning energy and vibrations and frequencies. All these things that I study on a nightly basis um, are now starting to be more a part of my art. And I like where it's taking me as a person. Um, I think putting so much work into being a poet and just not wanting to give up, it being an untraditional career and art form. Sometimes you can place too much of your energy in that, just wanting to be something within this realm of something that you've dedicated 20 years of your life to. And now I'm okay with me, void of poems, void of being on stage, void of applause, void of the accomplishments that you mentioned earlier. Like, I get it now. I get it. And the joy is the everyday life. The joy is having an obstacle or a roadblock that you can overcome. The joy is being able to do it again the next day, rather than, a painful moment. Let me write about it. Or a moment that can be profound, that can help other people. Let me perform and figure it out, because all I was doing was just reopening wounds and I wasn't healing. And I realized that healing came off stage. It comes from the work that you do that nobody sees, the things that you aren't going to post, like the things that don't look beautiful and pretty. That's where life really exists. That's where you learn the most, and that doesn't always need to be articulated to the public. Some things should just be for me, and so I think I'm going towards like a direction where I'm learning the balance, but right now I'm not even concerned about balancing it. I'm just simply enjoying what is right now.
Mm. Wow, that is so beautiful and so well said. I recently did my first feature, so I created Pole Therapy so I could create my own platform. Because as you know,
Okay.
a lot of these spaces, artistic spaces, they're still gatekeepers, right? It's still like,
Absolutely. Yep.
status quo in terms of getting a feature. So me being me, I just said I'm gonna create my own, and anybody who has something to say is welcome to be on my platform. You don't have to go through jump hoops. I just want you to express yourself, feelings, emotions, whatever it is. So I had my first feature where someone else booked me, which I had never had, right? So
Congratulations.
thank you. It was a big deal. It was at Lizard Lounge here in Cambridge, which is 20-year, almost over 20-year space
I'm
of poetry
familiar.
coming
Yeah.
in. And as I was selecting pieces, I realized I had been writing, and when I was writing about hurt, heartbreak, F boys, dog,
Oh,
getting
yeah,
done
yeah.
by men. Like, and I was like, wow, I'm not in this space anymore. And I
Uh-huh.
thought about you, right? In terms of like, I don't know if I want to do these poems, read these
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Because poetry has always been for me a place, again, of therapy, healing. That's where I would write all my intimate thoughts, not ever really to perform it or
Yeah.
to share it with anybody. So as I was looking to find things to perform, I felt real exposed. Like,
Oh.
I wasn't really sure if I wanted people to know that I had wrote or said some of the things I had said. So, as you've been sharing, I realize I'm in a new space in terms of my own writing. And just where I want to be. And I have this book that I'm still not done with, because that too is full of pieces that I'm no longer in that space. So it's like, do I even want to put out this book now? Like,
Uh-huh.
should I just scrap it and start over? So it's interesting that poetry started just as a place to write. And then there's this whole other performance and accolades and Grammy considerations. And there's this whole other entertainment arm of it. What's your thoughts on that in terms of like, just, it's great that that's where we're going, but
Uh-huh.
on the other hand, it has made it more and more competitive, and it's turning into a different type of beast.
Yeah. Well, I always try to navigate it with authenticity, right? So I know that I'm not willing to say things that one I can't stand behind on my own, things that aren't true that I don't mean. Um, but I also am very spook who sat behind the doorish. I like to infiltrate. You know what I mean? So I want to infiltrate the entertainment world with authenticity, which I've managed to do. So, my thoughts on it becoming a more competitive space, I love it. I'm a competitor at heart. I started in slam poetry and I'm a competitive person. So I'm always going to have that. But for me to be able to do it by sharing my true story and my life in general, not having to make up stories, just simply being able to articulate my thoughts and feelings, that's what matters the most to me. Like I just got Grammy nominated on purpose. You know what I mean? And I created an album about my true thoughts and feelings from the perspective of myself and one of my good friends, Sean William, two black men from Oakland. And I did it in Oakland. And I did it in front of a live audience in one take. There were no redos. And we pressed record, we pressed stop, we sent it. I thought of all the ideas for the campaign for 12 to 14 months and we executed and boom, we were Grammy nominated off of being ourselves and
Mhm.
deliberately putting something on a worldwide platform that can be listened to. And I have no qualms about anything I said or did. Um, so I think when it comes to the entertainment side of spoken word poetry, I think it's amazing because it gives us a platform to choose up whether we want to be honest, whether we want to be dishonest, but it's giving this art form a platform that it's deserved for a long time. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think we all have a place within spoken word poetry. Some of us are more ambitious than others, and I definitely find myself to be on that more ambitious side. So I like the uncharted territory. The idea that this is an opportunity. Let me figure out how I can do this while remaining 110% myself, and so far so good. So I don't complain about it.
Yeah, I will say, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what is like maybe under 5 years that it's been a Grammy category, right? Maybe 3 years.
This
It's
year
very
is
long.
the third year. Yeah.
Third
So
year.
last year when we got nominated, it was the second year that's best
Yeah.
spoken word poetry album is even a category.
Yes.
And
So
if
it's
you
very
look,
new.
very, very new, very
Mhm.
new. And honestly, wasn't sure if it was going to continue due to the numbers with the submissions and just the popularity of the art form. But shout out to the Recording Academy for, exposing the world to what we do. But yeah, this is only the third year that it's been a category. So to be, one of a total of, I think 13 people, 13 poets to be able to be considered Grammy nominated and for it to be a lifetime achievement award, which I didn't really realize because I wanted to win it. So I was like, I didn't win. So, I'm nominated, cool, but I'm here to win.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's amazing. And the feedback has been great. The response has been great. But again, being Grammy nominated now gets me entry into doors that I didn't have access into before.
Hmm.
And I'm not going into those rooms being somebody else. You just messed up and gave me this access and this entry now with this title. So now we really about to get to cooking. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'm on the board for spoken word committee for the Recording Academy. I see the access it's getting me. I'm working on getting a 60-minute piece that I wrote on Broadway. I was just in New York last month doing some work out there trying to make that happen. So it's now opening doors for me that allows me to stay my authentic self in spaces where that's not really common. And I
Yeah.
love that. I really
I
love
think
that.
I think that when you so my background, I was in banking and investments, corporate. You always wanted to do like career pathing. You start a job and they would sit with you and you would have your manager and they would, talk to you depending on where you went. But if you were in a high level corporate job, it was usually a career path. Like, you start here. Where do you want to go? Here's what you need to do to get to this level or get to the next level. So I think for those who maybe were unsure about whether or not poetry, spoken word, um, could be something they could do full time. People like yourself, Jay Ivy, Queen Sheba, My Crumbled Thoughts. You guys are now showing that it can be recognized at the same level of an R&B artist. Like, so I think that is pretty dope. I mean, now you have Amari Hardwick's album has a whole spoken word album that's been nominated this year. It's pretty dope. You know, I'm enjoying just being a lover of the art and just listening to what people are coming up with. Um, and you guys are so awesome. Make me want to throw my notebook away. However, it also
don't say that.
It also makes me want to step my game up and write more. So
and that's dope.
It has both effects.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing. Shout out to Amari. I met Amari at the 2003 Oakland Slam 2.5 months after writing my first poem. I was just about to go online. I was just about to start pledging as soon as I got back. And my coach, shout out to Sonia Whittle, she's a Delta. And so, Omari being an alpha already, she had kind of put it in his ear because I had to tell her, like, yes, listen, I'm about to be a little busy for a while. So on this poetry thing, so she kind of put it in his ear. And I met Omari there, and he's been my brother ever since that day in 2003. And to see him go back to his original roots, because a lot of people don't know Omari's a poet, first and foremost. Can
we talk about one of the things of why I even wanted to do poet therapy too was that a lot of people are poets and people don't know.
Yep.
Because they either doing something else or they went and got a real job.
Yeah.
Knows that they have always been a poet. So a lot of people are poets. A lot of people. And you just be surprised. Yeah. Shout out to my good friend Vic Breedy. She just put out a spoken word album and also a poetry book called Fluorescent Black. And she wrote a poem about me called Bet on Self, which is a great segue to the next piece of my my show. So I was gonna play a clip, but I don't know. You feel like spitting a piece live, or you want me to play the clip?
Oh, I got you. What's the clip? I'll do the poem.
You want me to play the clip?
No, just what is the clip? I'll do the poem. I can do it.
Oh, well, yeah, I just picked a random clip off your page. But you said you got some new stuff about healing that I mean, if you want to do some new stuff I haven't heard.
Let's see. Okay. It's incomplete, so I'll share a portion of it. But it's around it's self-explanatory. So I realized that with this journey that I'm currently on, overall I want to be into a healthier space, right? Like that's the overall mission with me. So when it comes to my passion, my love, my career, my first job, that means that I have to be in a healthier space with my pen. They go hand in hand, and I realize that now. I can't separate one for the other. I can't separate real life from my art if I want to remain consistent. So that means no more ascribing my sickness and disguising it in a sick scripture, or trying to say ill shit in an effort to feed this illness I really need to deal with in order to heal, in order to kill what lives within, those demons that feed that need for applause, that really serve as another cause for more man-made verbal band-aids that serve as gauze but don't really treat the wounds. The problem with my scars is that they keloided into crutches, which means I've had them for so long, I don't know if I can walk without them, but I'm learning if you really want to process life's trauma, it speaks volumes being able to go mute. I have a personal problem with publicly talking about them. I have this sick, twisted fascination with these self-inflicted literary lacerations that leave me feeling like a verbal vagabond in search for community, living within a poetry community that's never really made me feel like community, but I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I have to take accountability. Because I'll be the first one to admit I've been known to say fuck the poetic etiquette or the so-called vets who've never left the internet, let alone their own backyard, to garnish the rest of the poetry community's respect. Ironically, when I'm at my worst is when I seem to have my best to give. Some may hear this and think disrespect. I hear competitive nature. Some poets rather chase success over sincerity, only to realize that success is really overrated. All it'll do is teach you that it's a lot easier to talk your shit once you realize they already hate you. I get online and some sometimes I feel like naughty by nature the way I've influenced other people's poetry. But that's what happens when your competition is only Prentice Powell. My reflection is my only OPP. The only op I recognize is opportunity. So I permeate these pages with purpose, searching beyond the surface for my final form. I'm learning to hide and find the warmth underneath like storm clouds, romancing the rhythm of the raindrops, dancing and writing in the dry spots while some remain drenched in depression, pretending as if they've never experienced a storm. I'm an 80s baby, a fatherless child, which means I was raised on hip hop and mentored by mentoring into literary pieces of art. So I scope bodies of work to body the work I've already created. There is no creatine in my pen, just creativity while in a pensive mood. But what do I know? I don't know much, but I do know what love is. I know emptiness. I know what it feels like to be trapped. I know what it means to be free. I know some of the world's most beautiful songs are ones that have never been sung. I know what it's like to stand on the edge of a cliff with fully functional wings but clipped confidence. Scared that the impact of crashing to that glass ceiling will somehow hurt more than falling to the floor, but I know, Lord knows, I need to jump. I know that we as men will blatantly lie to a woman's face just to protect their feelings, and I know that men ain't the only ones who can be scandalous. I know that God believes in far more than second chances. I've been to church with the devil sitting on my shoulders, and I swear to God, sorry God, I swear it was so hard to stand up when they prayed. What I'm trying to say is I know pressure. I know the weight of the world rests on my tongue. Maybe that's why I'm so misunderstood. I know I've learned from some of my mistakes, and I know I have plenty more to make. I don't know much, but I do know I've lived long enough to know that I don't know anything. So yeah, that's just a little bit of where I'm at lately. You
Going.
know, it's
If y'all felt that, y'all give us some hearts. I hear y'all out there. What's up to all our listeners at Bella Ray, Sandra Jackson, Mina Shea, Style Journey. Thank you for tuning in. There's a bunch of people on Instagram. I can't read these little letters that they got on here, but there's a bunch of people on Instagram. Shout out to y'all, LinkedIn, iHeartRadio. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. That was super dope. And that's not done.
nah. That was a mixture actually of two poems. I said a bit of one I just wrote and threw in whatever I was feeling. I do that for practice. I like to kind of stay on point and sharp and just try different things in the moment.
Yeah. Well, you have been known for your stage performance to be able to they call punchlines, right? Those in spoken word, those lines that make people go, ooh, did he just say that? So
Yeah.
you have that ability. So I talk about bet on self moments, the irony that we connected around your father. My dad passed away 6 years ago, and I appreciate and value his ability to have been vulnerable and to help me close daddy wounds, which is
Uh-huh.
what I shared that day
You
with
did. Yep.
on how I was holding stuff against my dad. And it took me opening up and actually saying what I really wanted to say, which allowed him to say what he really needed to say, which I think is probably what helped you call your dad, right?
It's
But
absolutely what inspired me. That exact thought. Yep.
so my father used to always say, baby, I hope you see what I see. For the moments that I didn't feel pretty, the moments that I felt insecure, the moments I felt like I couldn't make it, especially when I had issues with men, he was always the one to make all of those problems I had with guys okay, because I knew my daddy loved me, right? So he'd be
Uh-huh.
like, F those dudes real quick. Like some other things he said I can't say on the air. But anyway, he was always ready for me to chop a Negro off.
Right.
So, but he told me to bet on myself. So that inspired this show, because this is all extension of my grieving process intentionally. My father really loved my radio voice. He had an opportunity to hear me on the air. He was super proud of me. He would play me while he was driving the elderly here in Boston around. And it was a badge of honor to say his daughter was on the radio and she was a radio personality. And then I kind of moved away from radio. So in honor of him, I came back to radio and started doing the show. So bet on self moments are those moments where you decide if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? Would you be so kind to talk to us about some of your recent ones, maybe some that we don't know about, either publicly you've bet on yourself, or even those private ones that
Mm.
maybe only you and your wife know, that those were some bet on self moments that you might want to share with the audience that's still on the fence
Yeah,
about
I would
themselves.
say the one that I think was the catalyst to my life now, and I want people to hear me out when I say this. It was leaving my past relationship. It was a marriage of 6.5 years. This is, and I put this disclaimer out on purpose. None of this is about who I was married to. Um, it just happens to be the most pivotal moment. Is when I decided that I was going to bet on myself, that I was not going to fight for affection, attention, or love in a manner that I thought was unhealthy for my development, that I thought was unhealthy for me spiritually, and that I was no longer going to be codependent upon women. I grew up with a single mother who I was the husband. I was a painter by 10 years old. I was a carpenter by 12. I was driving errands at 13, going to buy packs of hair and whatever needed to be done. So a lot of my childhood was not my childhood. And I had identified that I spent a lot of my life searching for my mother's approval. So that correlated right to dating. And when there was a woman who popped up into my life that validated me, I was automatically going to gravitate towards her, and that's what happened. So, when the day I decided I no longer was going to be in that marriage, and that I was just going to simply walk away, put what I could fit in my trunk, and figure it out, um, was the biggest bet on self moment I've ever had, because that was the scariest thing for me to do. Um, I needed validation. I needed somebody to tell me that I mattered because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't have self love, and I left a marriage, a relationship for pure uncertainty and dark, and what I thought was going to be darkness. And I think that's the key, because we can't see past certain moments that we're in. Um, we lose that faith that maybe that darkness is just what we need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we really got to jump to learn that we have wings, and that's what I did when I bet on myself by leaving that relationship. And as a result of doing that, I learned self-love. I discovered what it looks like when a woman gives you the platform to grow, to discover yourself, and cultivate a relationship. um, I learned what it felt like to be a father. I've always been a full time father, but it was a different type of fatherhood. It was fatherhood that was void of anybody else's decisions. Where in my house during this point in time, I'm making all the decisions I have to do with my children, and their mothers make them on their own. It's no longer a collective thing. So it brought a lot of things that I got to rediscover who I was. And doing all that led me to quitting being a teacher and an educator, and jumping off the cliff and deciding I wanted to be a full time writer with no clue how I was going to do it, and to be able to successfully learn how to do that, to be a total and complete entrepreneur. Um, that was the biggest bet on self moment. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that, because that's what led to me being able to participate in the podcast, All Black Men Need Therapy. That's what allowed me to bet on myself and walk out of that room after we talked and call my father, because I had already done something where I took a risk and it paid off. But that is definitely the most pivotal moment. I would also say going for the Grammy, having no management, having no PR, no marketing campaign. I mean, not campaign, but creating it all on my own, with my two friends, and spending $174 total to become Grammy nominated. That was a total bet on self, because I was totally against the grain, and I wanted to etch my name in stone somewhere non-traditional for an art form, and I wanted to do it my way because I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. I still ain't in professional therapy, so obviously I
Uh,
got some work to do. But
technically,
uh,
you kind of got some professional therapy indirectly in unorthodox
oh
ways.
yeah, yeah, we got it. We got it here, definitely. But those are two moments I can think of that really help rewire my brain and how I choose to approach life on a daily basis. And what I believe in myself. I've just learned the value of self-love and belief. When you believe, it's already done. All you have to do is the work. But when you believe, that is the first and last step. It's
Mm-hmm.
true belief. Once you believe, the universe manifests what's needed in order for that belief to manifest in physical reality. And I think because I was so emotionally codependent upon women, I had learned that I had everything I needed for my success inside myself.
Mm. Oh, you
Yep.
just dropped so many bars and so many nuggets. Shout out Chiefs on Instagram. What's going on, Chief? He's
Keep it up.
he's in the check in, giving you some claps. Yeah, you dropping so many, I think, pivotal bars for men, and I think what I would say as a professional therapist, the support systems and how you have cultivated them,
Yeah.
primarily why you haven't had that mental health break that would have probably propelled you into a professional office like mine, right?
Yeah.
Because you are weekly going and having accountability and being able to unleash and be yourself because you have a healthy partner, right? You have so many spaces.
Yeah.
For a lot of people who come to therapy, they don't have those outlets.
Yeah. And then the Pilates has just been another new addition to my mental health and health in general.
Yeah, so switching gears because we're almost out of time, but Pilates, that was a complete shift,
Left.
unexpected
Yeah.
shift, which your wife really was in that field. And that was another podcast episode that I listened to where your feelings was hurt because that was
Oh.
her thing. And
Yeah.
you kind of jumped in like you was going to join that. And she was like, wait a minute, hold up, buddy. This is my thing.
Yep.
And and y'all had to work that out. But that was not your space. That was your wife's space. Your space
Yeah.
was poetry. And then you got this bright idea that you actually liked Pilates and
Yeah.
decided to go become an instructor.
Yeah. Yeah. That was totally her doing. I was her guinea pig when she got into it last year. She was doing real estate, selling new builds, and wanted to change her careers completely. And during her downtime, she discovered Pilates and got into it. And once she decided she wanted to be an instructor, I was her guinea pig to test out her classes. And then I found myself enjoying it. And then I looked at the landscape, and there are not a lot of black people,
Oh,
black
this
folks,
is the competitive part. Go ahead, break it down.
not a lot of black folks within Pilates. It's considered a female oriented exercise or physical activity. Um, and for me, I like being untraditional. I mean, I made a career out of being a spoken word artist. That's not traditional. And I noticed that one, there weren't a lot of black men. There weren't a lot of straight black men. There were a lot of black people involved in Pilates, and we don't see that in our community. And we happened to get connected with a brother by the name of Sean Cousins, who is the owner of uh, our Pilates studio we have out here in the city we live in. It's called Body Bar Dublin, out here in the Bay Area in Northern California. Black owned, a brother. He seen my wife. She was going to be an instructor. She ended up being the fitness manager of the whole studio. Um, he saw my interest and agreed to support me on my journey of becoming a Pilates instructor. And um it's been very transformative. It's allowed me to do some work with my wife. I can't be under her enough. I love being around her, which is the reason why I started doing it anyway. We've kind of stapled ourselves as being this black married couple who's really good at this new exercise. It gives me an opportunity to learn something new, to introduce this to black men in our community, the black community. It's been a wonderful experience so far. I'm getting healthier. That's never a bad thing, and allowing other people who aren't necessarily exposed to black people that exposure through me, through helping them get healthy. So it kind of, it's a win-win for all of us involved, for the black community, for me, for my wife. And we found our niche. And so we just, I'm teaching daily. I teach several classes a day, and um, I like what it comes
Go
with.
ahead. You better go.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
love it.
so it's enjoyable. I like it.
Yeah, I've been told Pilates I need to go to a class. It's supposed to be super dope. So
Check it out.
I love when we are trendsetters and we break into things that people don't see us in or don't
I
think
love
about.
that too.
I think
Yep.
that right there, I just love it. That always just makes me excited. So can you
I
believe it?
I, I, I love that too. I love coming in there looking like this.
Hold on now.
Expect
Look at
the
that.
unexpected. Unorthodox radio from Boston and beyond. Meet 981fm.com and iHeartStation.
I tell you, my hour goes by so fast.
That was so fast.
It went by so fast. But this was good. I hope I can get you to come back.
Oh,
I'm still
absolutely.
come be a guest on you guys' podcast as well.
Absolutely.
But tell them where they can find you. How often do you guys post up new content? I know you're doing a quote of the morning now, so following, so you can tap in. So let them know how they can tap into, 1/3 of all Black men need therapy.
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Prentice Powell. You can always go to PrenticePowell.com. You can go to my Instagram, Prentice Powell 1906. Again, I'm 1/3 of our podcast called All Black Men Need Therapy. Please check us out. I would I would absolutely say more than checking out my individual art and work, please check out our podcast. abmnt.com. All Black Men Need Therapy. We're on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. We're doing work that really provides a safe space for Black men to be vulnerable and share space with each other, and it's doing a lot of great things. So you can check us out there. And I have a project that I'll be working on the first 3 months of this year for throughout the year of 2025 that I'm really, really excited about. That's going to be, allowing me to be a creative, totally 110%, but also help and heal other people in the process. So, yeah, just keep looking out. You'll hear from me.
Yeah, tap in. Thank you so much for joining the conversation tonight. I learned some valuable nuggets. I'm sure the listeners did too. You guys make sure you tune in next week to another episode of Conversation with Coach La. Next week, I got Alexis Wolf season. She's coming on. She's also another Grammy-nominated poet. So I'm excited to have a conversation with her as well. And then after that, I'll have Michael Warrior Bonds coming on. So it's like I'm ending the year with nothing but poets.
Let's go. It's only right.
Poets. So thank you so much. I know you're under the weather, so thank you for taking time to talk to me. And we'll be in touch, and keep on betting on self. I'm gonna have to come down there and take one of your Pilates classes.
Oh, don't say that because I'm gonna be bugging you to do it now. But thank you
Yeah,
so much for having me. I appreciate you so much. And on a personal level, we are forever locked in because
Ever.
that moment was not coincidental. So we are locked in because we are meant to be. So I'm here
Yes.
anytime you need me.
Yes, I appreciate you so much, my brother. Tell your wife, your beautiful wife, she has such a great spirit, exudes from social media. So best of luck and much success to her with her Pilates business. And we'll talk soon. Have a great evening. And talk to you later. Y'all keep on betting on self and keep having those dope conversations. Good night.
Good night. I'll see you later.